Is there any questions? Yeah.
This is for Robert. What is your... Can you guys hear me? This is for Robert. What is your favorite billboard and why that you photographed? It's a hard question.
That is a hard question. Let me think about that a second. My favorite billboard. It's probably the one on the cover. Well, no, actually, I got to give you two. There's two, and there's another one which is almost going to be on the cover. We couldn't decide. There's a great billboard for not for the record Tommy or the movie Tommy, but there was a record that Lou Adler did of the London Philharmonic Symphony performing Tommy, and it's an amazing image of two chrome eyeballs. I guess they're pinballs, but they have eyes on them, and there was no text. It was just these. Their picture in the book. You see these two chrome eyeballs staring out at you from the strip, and people were, I remember at the time, people just were stopping and getting out of their cars to look at this thing. It was so eye-catching. So that's one, and then the other one is the Beatles, just because it's so iconic.
You got a question here?
Yeah, and it's for Robert. Are any of these billboards existing anywhere? Did they ever warehouse them, or did the artists ever have a sense that they had created this amazing rock and roll art?
You know, they didn't, and the few artists that I spoke to said they didn't even think about taking pictures at the time because it was just in the flow of everything that was going on. And you could have bought them, but you know, it was this huge plywood panels, nobody had anywhere to store them. So pretty much what happened down the line, other than Paul McCartney's head, which is somewhere, they got painted over. They're taken back to the studio, whitewashed, and then painted with a new message and sent back out to the strip.
So there's like maybe a form of rock and roll archaeology waiting out there for someone to
well, that's what the pictures
garage.
do.
Hopefully, yeah, they don't paint it like that woman painted the religious figure recently. Okay, we got one right here. Right by the orange shirt.
What brought the end of doing this? Those billboards.
The billboards. Well, I mentioned that a little earlier, but it was really the beginning of MTV coming along. So at a certain point before that, these record companies were making enormous amounts of money, and there were very few places they could advertise. It wasn't cool to advertise in those days. You certainly wouldn't, if you were the Doors, you wouldn't have your song appear on a commercial or something. So one of the few places they could advertise that was considered cool was the billboards. So that went along up until about 1982. MTV comes along, and then all the money, and there's one billboard that actually spent $50,000 on. ELO created this plexiglass space station. It was up on the Billboard, then it was in their live acts. But when MTV came along, all the money started moving into that to creating videos so that they could be on the TV network.
Do we have any more questions? Oh, you're going.
You were talking earlier about the Doors posing in front of their billboard. Were there many other instances of groups which posed in front of their billboards and which were photographically archived somewhere?
I tried. I haven't tracked down any yet. There probably are in people's private collections, you know. But I talked to Sean Cassidy, who's not really a rock and roller, but he's a fascinating guy because he grew up in West Hollywood, and he walked along the strip as a kid, and he sort of pushed his company Warner Brothers to make a billboard for him, even though he was not, he was kind of selling to a younger audience. He wanted it, so they did it, and he had a pretty amazing billboard put up there, and he told me that. He said, I always wanted to go up there and take a picture of myself, but he looked like such a dork standing there in front of your own billboard. So I gave him a picture of his billboard.
And Robert, you mentioned one billboard was like $50,000. Do you know how much the pricing was like with the Doors compared to later on? And also, if you could talk a little bit about the technology, like you mentioned the ELO 3D.
Yeah. Well, that was a one-off thing. The ELO thing. Generally, the billboards cost about $1,500 a month. That included painting, posting, any touch-ups that needed to be done, and then eventual dismantling. And then over time, that went up to about $3,000 a month. And now I'm guessing they're $20,000 and up for a month to rent a billboard there. But what was the other part of the question? Oh, the technology. Yeah, I mean, back then there were printed posters too, but the height of the art with these hand-painted ones, because they had a very unique look, and the guys who painted them were all highly trained craftsmen and artists, so they had a very unique look. Of course, now everything's digital, so things are either printed out digitally onto some kind of a material that's then draped over the billboard, or some of them are just big screens where they just project the image up. So it's a lost art form, but I'm a big fan of that technology. It's got a kind of a human touch to it as you look at the
one more question here.
Sorry, one more.
Where can people buy your photographs?
I'll be having some gallery shows. I have a little card. I can give people a card if they're interested. I can give them a card to a gallery show that's coming up just a couple blocks from here around October 20th. So see me after the thing. I'll give you an invitation.
Okay, thank you. And we'll hope to see you at the Book Soon booth, and we'll be signing.